the right things, not merely industrious, but to love industry, not merely learned, but to love knowledge, not merely pure, but to love purity, not merely just, but to hunger and thirst after justice. As you read the biography of our distinguished guest lecturer, it will become obvious that she is one who loves education and has enjoyed the process towards becoming educated. The various degrees that she has earned from Fisk University, Medgar College of Medicine, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and the United Theological Seminary is a testament of her love and quest for knowledge. Having been admitted into the distinguished honor society of Phi Beta Kappa, and then accumulating a high grade point average to graduate from Fisk University with magna cum laude. Our guest has used that knowledge, that education, to further causes for the advancement of all mankind. She specializes in holistic education and holistic mentoring. She is an expert on adolescent issues with degrees in medicine, the ministry, public health, and theological studies. She has received numerous awards for her humanitarian efforts and has published volumes of poetry. We are delighted and honored to welcome to the great Medgar Evers College our distinguished lecturer, a mother of 2 sons, an educator, a writer, a minister, an orator, the great, the distinguished Dr. Rebera Foston. Let us receive her.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction, Dr. Jackson, and to Professor Barton and my good friend Marva. Thank you so much for coming. May I ask a favor of you? I could come to you as a physician, I could come to you as a minister, a theologian, public health expert, but could I just be a poet this morning? I've had a long journey to get here from Dayton, Ohio this morning, and if you would let me, I would just like to be a poet. Let me just do one poem, and if you think it speaks to your circumstance here in Brooklyn, then you could help me out because I'm a minister. You could say, go ahead on, sister girl, and I won't be mad at all. You could just help me out. I want to start with a poem, and I could do my whole lecture through poetry if you let me, called Every Monday. I think it's a fitting poem for this day. I wrote it about Dayton, Ohio, but I believe it might be true for some other cities. For as long as I can remember, I have always wanted to teach. I thought with patience and love, some children I could reach. At first, I had so much joy teaching kids that were not that smart, knowing I was helping some child get off to the right start. But I can't do this much longer, and no one warned me I could feel this way. But you should hear what I have to hear, Lord, every Monday. One child told me how he got a big bruise, and another one hadn't slept. One hadn't eaten all weekend, while another just sat and wept. One child's hair hadn't been combed, another had really bad breath. One seemed wired on something, while another seemed bored to death. Now one child smelled of cheap alcohol, and another one smelled of weed. One just wanted to talk about sex, while another on himself he peed. Now one child came in very late, and to me he looked the worst, but then I remembered he's always like that the Monday after the first. Now I don't know how much more of this I can actually stand when my own life is in shambles. Shoot, I don't even have me a man. But if I give up, people will talk. I know exactly what they will say. She called herself a teacher. She was just in it for the pay. But they don't see what I see or know about the things I pray. And they don't walk into my preschool class, Lord, every Monday. Could I get just one go ahead on, sister girl, and it would help me? Okay. You don't understand. You don't understand where I've been, what I had to go through to get here today. So may I do it through poetry, please? Yes. All right. This next poem I was allowed to do in front of 33 million people. Hey, no, 33 million. No, they asked me 2.5 years before I actually got to be on BET, Our Voices with Bev Smith. Now, you know I asked them after 2.5 years, what took you all so long? I thought I was ready 2.5 years ago. But young people, you got to be ready and then be patient. But 2.5 years it took them because they said poetry was boring and they didn't see how they could sustain an hour-long talk show format with it. Well, I was on with 2 other poets, fantastic poets, one from Seattle, one from Denver. The show aired and it had the highest rating they ever had and was re-aired 5 times. So can we clap for poetry not being boring? The poem I was blessed to do on that show was called Annie's Baby. Remember me? I'm the welfare lady who took the first report on you and your baby. I've gotten more complaints. I get one daily, so I decided to see if something was shady. Now, Annie, child, where do you think you're going? And who's that old man out there blowing? Child, you need to change your plan. You don't need to be with that old man. You're just 13, not even grown. So why are you trying to be on your own? And tell me, where's the baby like I asked you before? You think your mama's got him. Try next door. Well, excuse me, ma'am. Do you have Annie's baby? He is your grandchild. I want him to grow up crazy. Well, who's got the baby before you snip up anymore? You think the daddy's got him. Try next door. Well, excuse me, Mr. Brown. Do you have Annie's baby? You are the father. Well, okay, maybe. Say your girlfriend threw him up against the wall, said it woke you up when you heard him fall. He was crying. She went off when he wouldn't stop. When your girl gets to drinking, she can't take noise a lot. Well, I can see, sir, that your mind's a little hazy. You said the ambulance took him, said he was breathing lazy. Well, doctor, how's the baby? He took his last breath. The diagnosis beaten to death. Yes, I knew the situation. No, I am not lazy. I just spent all day looking for that baby. How long have I had the case? Well, yes, sir, maybe. I probably should have taken Annie's baby. This next poem, I had a grandmother drag this little boy into me by his ear. Ear stayed red the whole office visit. I saw 16,000 young people while I was in private practice for teenagers only. And I asked this little boy, what have you done so crazy that your mom, your grandma, everybody thinks you're crazy? And this is what he told me, and I call this poem Little Orphan Boy. Little orphan boy, how did you get this way with your mom and daddy living somewhere today? Well, you see, my mom is going with cocaine, and now she don't even know her name. My daddy, he's done married alcohol, and now he ain't fit for nothing at all. My mama's mama, she's a sweet old girl, and I wouldn't do nothing to hurt her in this world. But she ain't been the same since Big Daddy died. She won't talk to me, and Lord knows I've tried. My daddy's mama, she stays low sick since they cut off her foot and she walk with that stick. My daddy's daddy, he stays on the go, chasing wine and women, well, you know. My mama's sisters, they're very mean, like they don't like a living thing. They say what happened to mama served her right. When Big Daddy messed with them, she didn't fight. I got plenty of uncles and one got a wife, but they got their hands full with their own life. I don't like staying with them because if the truth be known, none of them know how to act like they grown. They cuss each other and beat their child, so I just had to get away for a while. I told my caseworker it wasn't my fault that I was picked up by the police for assault. Because you see, I'm 13 and the gun was a toy, and I'm just a little black orphan boy. Now, the order that I'm doing the poems tells a story, but each individual poem, I hope you hear telling a story. Whatever area you're majoring in, We need you to do the very best that you can and come on out and help us. There's a war about the spirits of our young people, and we need you in every capacity. What distresses me when I get to talk to young people in college is that some of them are half doing one thing when we need to master 2 or 3. I'm talking to you this morning. I know you don't want to do the assignments and the papers, and it all seems like a lot, but for the amount of work that's waiting for you, you need to be mastering 3 skills while you're here. No longer will it be okay to say, well, I'll do that, or C is okay, it's not okay. Somebody's life may depend on how well you do every assignment you're given here. But I'm not going to preach, I'm going to do some poetry. Okay? This is one I did at Morehouse College, and they said it was the most unusual reaction they'd ever gotten of that all-male student body. May I share it with you and then compare your reactions to that student body? I call this poem My Question. I've heard you tell your girlfriends that you don't need a man in your life and that you don't even care if you're never someone's wife. Well, I've heard you say that so often, but if what you say is true, then Mama, I think there's something I really need to ask you. You taught me how to ride my bike and showed me how to catch a ball. You paid for my music lessons and you make me stand straight and tall. You cut the lawn, wash the car, and take out all the trash. And you take me to my basketball games, even if you make a mad dash. You tuck me into my bed at night, stay with me till I fall asleep. And when you say we'll do something, that's a promise I know you'll keep. But when you buy me a present, I know it'll be the right size. I know I'll see you every day, and with you, there's no surprise. You take me to church every Sunday, and you taught me how to pray. You help me with my homework. Till it's done, I can't go out to play. You yell at me when I've done wrong, and then you spank my butt. And each time that you spank me, you make sure I know for what. Whenever someone tries to hurt me, you're the first to step in. You taught me how to fight and how to graciously win. But from what I've learned in school and always see on TV, that in a real family, there are usually 3. There's supposed to be a mother and a father, and then they have a child. So there's something I've wanted to ask you, and I've wanted to know for quite a while. You say I ask too many questions. Well, please let me ask just one more. Mommy, if you do all those things for me, then what's a daddy for? I need another go ahead on sister girl right about now. Now can I bring 12,000 of my patients into the room? Yes, with the beauty of poetry, you can do that. I introduced this in the Bahamas, and they tell me after I left the island, 250,000 people were crying at the same time. Now, you know, it's nothing but the Lord working, so I'm just glad to be an instrument. But this is the poem that I did the day after Father's Day. Hallmark doesn't have a card for some of the fathers that I've met. I know when your birthday is, because that's when Mama starts to cry. And I made to buy you a Father's Day card, although I've often wondered why. I can tell when you've been here by the items left in the bathroom. I also know because it takes Mama several days to shake that gloom. I don't know how I feel about you, and that's the honest truth. People even say I look just like you, although I still need more proof. I remember once you told me how life was cruel and full of danger, but I wish you'd have told me how lonely it would be to have a father stranger. Do you know how it feels to cry cup after cup of tears? Or to wonder, what did I do wrong to make you stay away all these years? When Mama gets real angry, it's me she takes it out on, because deep down inside, she feels with her is where you belong. If you really are my dad, then why are you living with some other lady? And why do people expect me to say my sister to her baby? Once I heard you yell at Mama, hey, I bought you a baby changer. But Dad, I'm 11 now, and you still a father stranger. You don't know how it feels when a chunk of your life is missing, and how that hollowness turns to rage. I see the other women you've been kissing. I really would like to know how it would feel to just be normal, to be able to spend one whole day with you and not have to act so formal. Well, now I look at every man I meet with a certain amount of distrust. As soon as they try to tell me what to do, I can't seem to hide the disgust. I couldn't take it anymore, so I ran away. They said my life I tried to endanger, and no one would believe that I was looking for my father's stranger. This next poem, a 17-year-old girl came into my office. I saw her for 2.5 hours on an initial visit. Now that's unheard of, I know, in this modern day of HMOs or whatever. That probably explains why I left medicine and went into the ministry, because I was told I shouldn't cry with my patients, but I didn't know I was going to be hearing some of the things I had to hear. So this little girl got to the edge of my door. She turned back to me and said, "You know what, Doc? It ain't getting any better. We just getting older." And this poem got born. It ain't getting any better. We just getting older. Your boyfriend is still acting bolder and bolder. You let him whoop your head and then cry on my shoulder. It ain't getting any better. We just getting older. It don't make no sense he ain't treating you right. You paying the rent and he's spending the night. Every day you getting ready to either cuss or to fight. It don't make no sense, your eyes swole with no sight. It's just plain crazy year after year. You having his babies, me drying each tear. You living in pain and nothing but fear. It's just plain crazy. Things ain't what they appear. It just ain't right. He's acting prouder and prouder. He's drinking again, getting louder and louder. You trying to cover those scars with more and more powder. It just ain't right. Please, y'all, don't crowd her. I just can't stand it. Could you please be for real? How can you go on loving him still? If you don't kill him, one day I will. I just can't stand it. Is it just a cheap thrill? I hope you leave him this time for treating you this way, putting up with his lying day after day, him calling you names no matter what people say. I hope you leave him this time. Each night I pray. You know, it's truly a shame that everyone but you can see us living this life. I wish he let me be, because when he ain't hitting on you, he's feeling on me. It's truly a shame. We should be free. It ain't getting any better. He's acting colder and colder. He's shooting up again. This time the cops had to hold her. You see, that's my mama. Lord knows I done told her. It ain't getting any better. We just getting older. Oh, Lordy. Lord have mercy. All right now. Now, if y'all gotta cry something, don't get no snot on anything. It really is, you know, do that. Okay. This next poem, you'll have to help me again. Y'all don't mind if this is interactive? Because I came a long way. Y'all got to help me up here, okay? I introduced this one in the prisons in Nassau. And I asked the kids to turn their thumb up if they thought I should keep this poem in my poetry readings as I'm blessed to travel internationally, or turn their thumb down if I shouldn't do it. They said, "No, Doc." I said, "Won't even hurt my feelings because my ego's not tied up in this, okay?" I've distinguished myself in a few other things, so I don't have to have my ego all tied up in one thing. That's another preaching point, but we'll talk about that later. So I'm going to ask you the same thing. Turn your thumb up if you think I should keep it. Turn it down if you think I should. Is that fair? I've not started. Let me do my poem. Let me do my poem. When you are young, you should be happy, filled with excitement and glee, like everyone having a good time while trimming the Christmas tree. You know how moody that child can be, is all I would hear them say. But my daddy would tell him, "She's my little girl. Y'all shouldn't tease her that way." Well, for years I'd be so upset, the slightest thing could make me cry. It almost drove me out of my mind, just trying to figure out why. I had to know why I was so different from the rest of my family. I had to go deep inside my mind to solve this mystery. At first, the pieces of my memory seemed faint and badly scattered, like a lovely vase that's mishandled and ends up broken and shattered. Slowly, then painfully, images formed that were faint and sometimes dim. A shadow kept coming into my bedroom. One night I realized it was him. He must have thought I was my mama, the way he touched and kissed my face, but I knew he was more than drunk when he forced himself into my special place. No one will ever know how badly I wanted and needed to scream when I realized that what had happened was real and not just a dream. Well, all my memories are back together now and all the pieces fit, but to this day I'm not quite sure which one of them I want to hit. My mama for not caring or believing and making me feel all the guilt, or him for being an alcoholic in those nights climbing under my quilt. Even though he cursed her, messed with me, and all of us he battered, my mom acted like keeping a man in her bed was all that really mattered. Well, today I'm rocking and nursing my child, and a thought keeps shaking my world, because my daddy wouldn't stay in my mama's bed I'm holding Daddy's little girl. Yep. The majority of the audiences across the country undoubtedly said keep that one. Ooh, okay. Can I keep going? I need another go ahead on or something. See what happens. I've never had any formal oratorical training. Well, I guess that's not true. My mother was a brilliant orator. My dad was a poet, so I really come by all this very honestly. But I do see the faces of the children who inspired me to write the poetry. So I'm really grateful that you've allowed me to share some of my life with you through these pages, because so many kids, I've had so many tears on my shoulder, I can't even tell you. And we need your shoulders, because there's some more tears to be shed out here. So hurry up and get finished here. Some people on a long extended play, hurry up and get finished here, because we need you as soon as you step outside the doors. This poem I get the most unusual reaction to as I perform. And I think this is the reason a lot of our young men are in prison. I'm almost certain that this is one of the main reasons. Can I share it with you? Ever since, hey, no, I'm sorry. Ever since he was a little boy, he had such cunning and guile. Spank him, I never dared. I boasted, not my child. Expensive clothes, he'd make me buy him. Then he'd leave them all in a pile. Lift a finger around this house, I despaired, not my child. Neighbors said that he'd be stealing and using language that was vile. His teachers wanted to hold him back, but I demanded, not my child. Well, when I'd be away at work, he'd throw parties loud and wild. The landlord threatened to put him out, but I begged, not my child. The counselors told me that my son had abused drugs for a while, maybe an occasional beer, but an alcoholic, not my child. I wanted so much for him to love me, so discipline was not my style. The paper said he was incorrigible, but I insisted, not my child. Well, once he raised his fist to me, so 911 I had to dial. They wanted to lock him up, but I cried, not my child. So I give him whatever he wants. His temper I try not to rile. My family says he needs to be re-raised, but I hollered, not my child. Well, the day finally came. He hit me. A restraining order I tried to file. When the police asked who'd done this to me, I whimpered, not my child. So I used to visit him in the county jail while he was awaiting trial. Reporters would ask if he was guilty, and I'd yell back, not my child. Well, this is his last day on death row, and each step I take seems like a mile. The executioner has entered, and I wailed, not my child. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Okay, now, I have written over 1,000 poems. Now, you're supposed to clap or something for that. Actually, I misspoke. The poems write me. I literally am just a vessel. I just guide the words to paper, and God grew the tree to make the paper. So I'm just a vessel, please understand. But this next poem came out of me with more force than the poem I'm going to end on, and he's going to give me a signal when it's time for me to end. But this came out with the most force. It's not published yet, but I have to share it with you. May I? I have to. I have 20 books that I've completed. Have mercy, okay? 20. And that sounds very prolific, but I wish I hadn't written that many and I wasn't working on 4 more. I can only write like that because there are children who are hurting, and I prefer if I never wrote another book if it meant no other child had to live in fear. God, I wish that. I wish that. But this is a poem that just has its own book by its own name. I think it's number 19, and so you have to look for it in the future. There's something I have to tell you. My doctor says I must. I have to talk about it if I ever want to learn to trust. You always stayed so busy. Well, I was busy too. I didn't think that you cared about me, so I didn't bother to tell you. You worked full time, went to school, and advanced degrees you earned. You wanted me to be self-sufficient. Well, let me tell you what I learned. While you pursued your career, a pursuit that went on and on, don't turn away, just listen to what I learned while you were gone. I learned that TV gets on my nerves. That's why I talk so much on the phone. I learned that just living in a pretty house doesn't really make it a home. I learned to eat when I wasn't hungry, just feeling a little bored. I learned to stop crying and whining every time I felt ignored. I learned to sleep when I was not tired and to hold every sadness in. I learned to become invisible even though I wasn't thin. I learned that there could be many nights when I didn't want to see the dawn. So you see, there were many things I learned while you were gone. I learned that school was as unimportant to me, as unimportant as you make me feel. I learned that drugs can make you forget what is ugly and what is real. I learned that the alcohol in your bar would sometimes be my friend. I learned that if you drink enough for a while, your pain seems to end. I learned to hurt other people because no one cared about me. I learned to play a role so that my feelings no one could see. So you were chasing your dreams that in your mind were clearly drawn. My dreams were being broken and shattered while you were gone. I learned things that I did not know, and I was afraid to ask. While you were taking night courses, I was in my own night class. I learned when you got people to stay with me, some of them were unfit. I learned that I am no baby, and sitters don't just sit. I learned that you shouldn't have children if you have no time to give. I learned that you're not loved, it doesn't matter where or if you live. So while you were becoming a success, all my hopes I had to pawn. Mom and Daddy, I learned a lot while you were gone. How much am I doing? One more poem, minute? One more poem? Poem, okay, I gotta go to the last one then. I'm not often blessed to be able to share this much of my writing in one setting, so I wrote a poem that in case I only get to do one, I could put all my feelings in that one poem. May I tell you about this little poem? It's called You Don't Live on My Street. How many of you have heard of it? All right now. Okay, let me stop. Let me tell you about this poem, though. It shot around the world on me so fast, I could never keep up with it. I published it back in 1991. Already, young people have won millions of dollars in scholarships reciting this poem, winning oratorical contests, state pageants. Last year alone, I had 70 college campus queens that won their title reciting this poem. Now, if that's not the Lord working, I don't know what is. I had a little girl, 12 years old, recite this poem to the floor of Congress to a standing ovation. I was just at a deaconization or something, an ordination for a deacon last evening in Dayton, Ohio, rather. And a little girl was sitting next to me and said, "You're that lady that wrote the yellow book," because that's the book that's called You Don't Live on My Street. And she said, a roommate of mine in college, said she was putting herself through school by the money that she won reciting that poem. That's what I heard just last night. Now, is that the Lord? So may I humbly present this poem to you. You don't live on my street. So you want to know why I'm always high? And why you never, ever see me cry? Why do I shoot up all this junk? Well, have you ever seen your daddy sloppy drunk? Sure, I'd like to have more knowledge, but my dad drank up my money for college. So how can you look at me with such conceit when you don't even live on my street? So you want to know why I ran away? Why I'm boarded up buildings I'm hiding each day? You want to know why I choose to steal and do what I have to just to get a meal? Well, I don't worry anymore about getting good grades. All I worry about now is getting A's. Look at you with your life so sweet, but you don't live on my street. You ask me why at 14 I'm having this baby. Am I ignorant, retarded, or just plain lazy? What on earth was I thinking about? I was hoping my mama wouldn't put me out. See, your mama's boyfriend ain't messing with you and putting his hands on your little sister too. No, the 7th grade I didn't complete. But hey, you don't live on my street. So you want to know why I dropped out of school? How many times can you be called a fool? Ever since 1st grade, I've been called slow, so I wouldn't give the answer even if I did know. And how was I supposed to concentrate when I can't remember the last time I ate? Do you live every day with defeat? You don't even live on my street. So you want to know why I stay with him when he beats my head again and again? You want to know why I don't get upset when he makes each drunken idle threat? But do you have rats running across your head when you lay down in your broke down bed? Do you have shoes to cover your feet? Then no, you don't live on my street. So you want to know why I'm not raising my child? Well, you know I ain't worked in a while. You want to know why I don't keep in touch? Is buying some Pampers asking too much? Can I start coming round the place? Well, I'm ashamed to let my child see my face. Supposed to get out the kitchen if you can't take the heat. So, hey, you don't live on my street. You don't know a thing about me, but there's some things that you must see. Until you've walked in my shoes for a while and had a taste of my lifestyle. Until you've lived in my house and given a name to each mouse. Until you've seen your mama get beat, then you don't live on my street. Until you have walked my walk, until you have talked my talk, until you've knelt down on my knees, until you've eaten my government cheese, until you smell life through my nose, until you've worn my pantyhose, until you've seen life through my eyes, until you've worn my dress size, until you've heard life through my ears, until you've cried some of my tears, until you've lived inside my head, until you lay down in my bed, until you've read what's on my mind, until you stood in my welfare line, until you've been called out of my name, until you felt some of my shame, until you sold some of my dope, until you lost all of my hope, until you stood under my reign, until you felt some of my pain, until you've eaten what I've had to eat. Understand this, y'all. You don't live on my street. Down bed. Do you have shoes to cover your feet? Then no, you don't live on my street.
If I can help somebody as I travel on, if I can cheer somebody with just one word, or with this song, if I can show somebody, yes, Lord, that they are traveling wrong, then my living shall not, it will not be in vain. Then my I can help somebody, Lord, as I travel. Then my living, hallelujah, will not be in vain. Yes. If I can do my duty, this is what I wish on all of you, as a Christian ought. If I can bring the beauty, such a messy world sometimes, isn't it? To a world abroad. If I can spread love's message as the good man, as he told, then my living shall not, no, it shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. I will not have this life of mine. I don't want anybody to say. I don't want to say it. That she came through here and she went and it was all in vain. If I cannot help somebody as I pass, oh Lord, then my living shall not, no it won't, if I can help it, it won't be in vain. And this is what I want for you. I don't want your living, don't let your living be in vain. Do what's right, study hard. Don't let your living, don't let it be, don't let it be, don't let it be, don't let it be in vain. If you and you and you and you and you, hallelujah, I'm sure you already have, sweetheart, can help somebody as you pass. Oh Lord,